Fun fact, men like to wash their face. I know. I was actually not completely aware of that. I figured they just like, I mean, I obviously they wash their face, but I figured they just like took their shampoo bar or their shower bar and just did the thing and it was great. I mean, bearded men, I understand like washing their face because I have done the bearded man line already, and it's really important to get all the gross things out. That remember that thing that went around a couple of years ago about like particles in the beard? Gross. But turns out shorn men who like to shave their face also like washing their face, and they like the exfoliation, which is super cool. So I am doing that damn thing today for the men. And before I tell you how this all is accomplished and what exactly we are making for a face wash for them, hello, I'm Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, Sudsers? Welcome back to the channel. You are here for another round of 365 days of soap, and today's day 171, and we are following up with the things that we've been doing in the past few days for the Rat Pack grooming kit things, and we are making a face wash. Now this face wash is going to have the same scent blend as we put in Casablanca, and that's awesome because I don't want to spoil, the last one, so that's what we're doing. And it is a cream soap. Now, there are a couple ways that I make a cream soap. I'm sure there are many, many ways that cream soaps can be made in general. And I'm going to show you one of the ways that I like to make cream soaps because it's a cool process of actually creating essentially the soap paste in a hot process form and then using that as you need it to whip up and do the things and add the stuff to make your cool cream soap. So we're going to talk all about that and recipe formulations, and I think I'm giving you a recipe today in the actual video itself, so let's go. Okay, so for this whipped soap, we start with a hot process soap paste recipe really to make a cream soap. And so we do a dual lye solution for this. I always put in the potassium hydroxide first in a dual lye because I find the sounds it makes kind of scary, really. So I like to put that in first and then dissolve it fully in the total water for the batch and then add the sodium hydroxide. Now, when you're doing a dual lye, the easiest way to do it is to essentially take your total ounces of oils that you're using, right? So let's say you're using 40 total ounces of oils and you plug those into your soap calc. So you have the different saponification things, right? But you plug them in at instead of 40 ounces, plug them in at 20, right? And then select that you're doing your potassium hydroxide, and then plug it in at 20 with sodium hydroxide, so you'll get the amount of sodium hydroxide you need as well. And then you add, you put those into whatever. After you then do your full soap calc using either or, potassium hydroxide or sodium hydroxide for the caustic with the full 40 ounces of oils to get your water and using your super fat and whatever. And that's the way that I do the dual lye and figure out how much lye that I'm going to need of each in order to make that recipe make sense, really. And then what this blend is here is 50% olive oil, 30% coconut oil, 15% mango butter, and 5% castor oil. Now remember, I give you guys percentages because I don't know how much soap you need to make, and so if you just do that, work with percentages, it helps you size your batch to what you need. And this is at a 7% superfat, so I have plugged all of that information into the soap calc, and I don't know exactly how many ounces I'm doing with this. Again, say 40 ounces of total oils. So I plugged in 20 ounces, so essentially, right? Using potassium hydroxide as my caustic, and that gave me the amount of potassium hydroxide I needed for the batch. And then I plugged in 20 ounces of the oils with these percentages using sodium hydroxide as my caustic, both with a 7% superfat. That gave me the amount of sodium hydroxide that I need for the batch. And then I did the entire thing with the full 40 ounces using these percentages with oils and the 7% superfat, and that gives me the amount of water I need. And so that's how that was all figured. Now, I put everything in the crock pot to melt down, and we are not going to really be paying attention to the heat, right? So this is sitting at 150 degrees going into the oils. That's fine. You can totally put in your lye solution when it's hot, when you're doing hot process, and that's cool. Now, I'm not going to show you the entire process of doing the mixing and the things with this because it's a very long one, and we're trying to get essentially 3 days worth of work into one recipe or into one video. So the mixing of this in total for the first mix, I spend about 10 minutes doing this, and it's not fun. It is what it is. Look, you don't really have to do this with normal hot process recipes, right? You just need to hit like an emulsion, just like with a cold process, and then let it do its thing. But with this, we're making soap paste. Now, the cool thing about soap paste is it essentially becomes little kind of semi-hard clumps of soap that you've cooked down, cooked the majority of the liquid out of it, and you can rehydrate them to use them for cream soaps and for whipped soaps, you know, whenever you need them. So you just weigh out what you would need from your soap paste. So yes, this process is tedious. Yes, it takes a very long time, but you can just do giant batches of soap paste and then just set it aside and then just measure out the amount that you need when you're making your cream soaps and, you know, all that jazz whenever you need to, which is cool. So it's kind of like front end, very time consuming, but then you just kind of always have it. It's like similar to melt and pour, I guess, in a way. You're creating something that can be used a little bit at a time as you need it. And yeah, no, this mixing process, it takes a very long time. And weirdly, hot process is not one of those processes that I ever super cared enough about to, you know, fiddle with and see how much of this exactly is necessary. I know that a lot of it isn't, but to speed up my cook with this, I actually mix it until it starts looking like it's ricing or getting weird and grainy. And actually that's when I stop. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is the consistency I want. This totally looks like, you know, a winning batch of soap. And that doesn't really make sense for people who make cold process, but you see how it's kind of going grainy there? Yeah, this is about when I stop. And that doesn't make a lot of sense because in cold process, you don't want your stuff to rise. So that means separation, that means all the things. And for me, that's when I sort of just, yeah, look, it's like it's curdling. It's so cool. This is usually when I stop it and put the lid on and cook it for like an hour. And then I come back and I beat it some more with my stick blender. But honestly, this is like 15 minutes in, and I am tired of doing this at this point. And so I stop here. I think I could continue doing it, and it would get to, I don't know, something that makes more sense as far as the consistency and everything, but I don't. I don't. I stop it at this gross, disgusting place and call it good for an hour-long cook, and then I will come back at that point and mix it again. Really, lots of mixing this soap paste. So this has now cooked on high for about an hour, and you see how it has changed quite a bit. yep, that doesn't look gross and weird anymore, and it's still, you know, pliable and whatever, and you could actually, you know, turn this at this exact moment into soap. Hey, just put it in your mold and soap, but we're not going for soap, we're going for soap paste. And since we are going for soap paste, we are going to mix it again and change all of the consistency again, and it gets really thick. Like, I don't know, people describe cold process like mashed potatoes, which I guess is kind of apt, I guess. I don't know. My mashed potatoes don't look like that. They're not that dark. But you can see how it's starting to lighten up as I continue to do the mixing of the things. Now, after this, I am going to let this cook for 1 more hour, and then I'm just going to turn the crock pot off and let it cool down on its own overnight. And then, you know, tomorrow I will have soap paste that is ready to go and be used in a soap, you know, cream soap, whipped soap recipe thing, which is cool. But yeah, in total, with the first cook and the second cook and all the mixing and all the things, it is definitely a long process. But again, you're making soap paste out of it, and you can do a ton of things with soap paste, not just whipped soap, not just cream soap. You can do a lot of things with a big old batch of soap paste at your disposal. So, you know, consider it, try it. It could be fun, or you could hate it. Okay, and now that everything has cooked, you have a nice cool soap paste here, right? Now what I have done here is I have measured out 7 ounces of the soap paste and 7 ounces of distilled water, and I'm adding to this 2.8 ounces of stearic acid. And then I'm going to put this back in the crock pot so the stearic acid can melt down and sort of reformulate with the soap paste, really, and then we're going to whip it up. Now, this is not a necessary step if you're going to be just using it, you know, like right away, right? So if it's personal use and it's whatever, you just want a cool whipped soap, you can totally just put in the equal parts of the soap paste and the water and dissolve it into the paste and, you know, then whip it up from there. But if you want it to be stable enough to, you know, use for, you know, several months at a time or whatever, you definitely need to put the stearic acid in, because that helps act as an emulsifier essentially for the entire thing, and it stabilizes the whip, so it'll actually stay, you know, whippy, and it won't change in texture at all. So it gets heated up again, do the thing, and then once it's been all melted together, you put it into the KitchenAid, and my God, I need to take the rattle can to my KitchenAid again. And you're going to start the whipping process. Now, with this particular recipe, again, 7 ounces of the paste, 7 ounces of the water, I am adding, in the 2.8 ounces of stearic acid, I'm going to be adding 6 ounces of glycerin to this in, you know, stages. Now, in addition to the glycerin, I'm also adding in the scent blend and an extract and the kaolin clay and a jojoba bead exfoliant. Now, for that reason, this soap is going to get a little bit thicker than my usual whipped soaps. Like, so I use this exact same formulation, right? Like this cream soap for the whipped sugar soap scrubs, which are delightful, as well as for the men's shave crops. So this is the same process I use for all 3 of those. And this one ends up being the thickest, is going to be the thickest out of all of them, because of the kind of copious amounts of kaolin clay that's in there, as well as the exfoliant. I don't put an exfoliant in my, you know, shave crops, because then you got like the grainy stuff on your whatever. But for a bar or a face soap, this is great. This is a wonderful thing to use. So if you did not put the exfoliant or the clay in, that's the consistency that you would get, and it's completely delightful. I love it. And again, that's used for my shave crops as well as the whipped sugar soap scrubs. Now, it's going to start getting thicker because we are putting in the exfoliant bits, so the jojoba beads for this. And I love jojoba beads. They're very cool. They mimic like a microbead, right? But see how quickly it got thick? Yeah. So that is because of the exfoliant as well as the extra clay that's in there, so it's sort of binding to extra liquids. But that's okay. This formulation in and of itself, still delightful. It's just quite a bit thicker and less whippier than what I have for again, the whipped sugar soap scrubs and the shave probes. But for a face wash, it's kind of awesome. Now, I settled on these little tins for the men's face washes because they're cool and it looks, you know, manly and awesome to just scoop a little bit out from your container and, you know, do your face washing, exfoliating thing from this cool metal. Yeah, totally. We're doing that. That and it's a metal tin. It makes me feel better about the whole whatever. So these guys are actually ready to go as is. Since you already did all of the cook with the hot process to turn it to a soap paste, there's no need to let a soap, a cream soap cure any longer. Now, there's another way that you can do a cream soap, and I do that when I actually have enough time to plan ahead, which is almost never. But you can do essentially the same steps that I did earlier to make the soap paste, but then you just sort of like sit and let it rot for like a month. And I don't know, you can do it that way. I prefer to do it this way though, because it's more like instant gratification and you can use it faster, which is good. And then you don't have to continue looking for, remembering to go check your soap and stir it around as it's going through its rotting phase. That and something just rotting sounds terrible, so it's just whatever. But it is what it is. And yeah, so let's check out the lather on this. So for the lather on these guys, a little goes such a long way. See that? Just a little teeny tiny amount. It's going to create such a good, you know, delightful cleanse. And so very, very tight, tiny bubbles, nice and creamy, has a beautiful just sort of detox with it. And it's just, oh, it's lovely. I love that. And that is a cream soap for the men's line for a face wash, which is, you know, amazing, because again, turns out men like to wash their face, and that's good. They should do the thing. And the exfoliating bits, as I was testing that just barely, they are pretty significant. Actually, I took one of these home afterwards and decided to start using this as my, you know, twice weekly exfoliant when I get bored with the face bars. But I'm not really bored with the face bars. That red clay and activated charcoal one that I made, I don't know, like a month or so ago, that thing is amazing. So I'm still hooked on that one. But this is also a really nice, you know, extra thing. I think just because it feels like your skin is getting really, really detoxed and you're really stripping away, you know, all of the extra dead skin with this. It's a pretty heavy hitter as far as exfoliation goes. And yeah, see that? It's so cute. Looks kind of like a whipped body butter, but it's not. It's a cream soap, and that is the day 171 for the men's face soap. So there it is, a creamed, whipped men's face exfoliating soap thing, which is a really good soap. So it's going to be nice and cleansing, but not overly cleansing so you're dry, right? So that's going to be a really important thing to look at when you're looking at the cleansing numbers of soap in general. And this one has the extra exfoliant in it, so they're actually getting their exfoliation that, you know, we do and whatever as well, which is cool. And this particular, again, the blend that goes into the Casablanca, into the Humphrey Bogart line, absolutely delightful. You have the bergamot, have the black pepper, not so much black pepper that it's going to actually hurt your skin. It's all a thing. It's amazing. And yeah, if you are interested in any of the cream soaps, the face soaps that we have made for the men's line, yeah, you can get them in their individual grooming kits at the end of the week. And if you're interested in more soapy antics, you should subscribe to the channel. We have a couple more days of this before we are done for the Rat Pack line, and so you should want to come back and check it out. For those of you who have been coming back and checking it out, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you being subscribed. I appreciate you being part of the Sudsor family. Thank you so much. You are amazing. And I am done for the day, and I will see you guys again tomorrow. Bye.